Hi everybody, I'm Adam Milstein and it's really terrific to be with you. The next generation of our leaders. We're going to talk today about antisemitism and much more. So it's going to be kind of a new subject, an interesting subject. Um, I was born in Israel when Israel was just 4 years old. My father served in the 1948 Independence War. He also served in 1956. And I had the privilege to serve in the Yom Kippur War, which took place in 1973. I was stationed in the Sinai Peninsula, and as I was bombarded by Egyptian artillery and Iraqi airplanes, at some point we crossed the Suez Canal into Egypt, and our life was in constant danger. I made a promise to myself that when I come out, if I come out, I will dedicate what I'm doing to my family and to our country. And it took some time, but when I was released from the army in 74, I went to the Technion. I got married to my wife, Gila. She's here. And by the way, I'm going to speak as I, but everything that is I is we. So just be aware. So 1974, we got married and went to the Technion, the Israeli Institute of Technology. And in the end of 1980, I came here to pursue higher education. I went to SC and got an MBA. And immediately after, I just stayed for a few more months to just get my tuition back. But few months became few years, and few years became today 37 years. Now, as I started my business, I got connected to a new partner. He's also Israeli American, just like myself. He's modern Orthodox, and he lived here not too far in Echo Park. I think the rabbi mentioned his name, David Hager. And he really introduced me into the Jewish kind of life. And one of the things that he introduced to me is the charity. But he said it this way: it's not that we're supposed to give 10% of our income to charity. It works this way: whatever we give to charity, it's zakah, God give us 10 times more. So, if any businessman, if you can see that it works, you'll become a philanthropist overnight. And that's exactly what happened to me. It worked, and I became a philanthropist. And about 20 years ago, when I came to a position that I no longer needed to think about the next day, I had enough money for retirement, I devoted more and more time into philanthropy. I became what is called an active philanthropist or philanthropreneur, which means I don't just write checks. I write checks, I write programs, I get involved with the program, I make sure they're successful, I connect many organizations together, and like a business, I make sure that our investment has a very high rate of return. And as a philanthropist, you need to focus what do you want to do. And there are people that investing in other people in education, in health. I have decided to dedicate my philanthropy into inspiring more people like myself to strengthen the state of Israel and the Jewish people. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, how to do that. And in order to do that, I think we need to possess three elements. One is we need to be proud that we are Jews, right? We have a lot to be proud of, so we need to have pride in who we are, where we came from, and where we're going. The other thing we need to know that justice is on our side. We are the good guy here in this game. And thirdly, we need to have the courage to stand up and fight for what we believe in and against our enemies. Should we be proud? Should we be proud? Absolutely. Look at what the Jewish people brought to the people, to the world. We brought the Bible. We brought Judeo-Christian values. We brought the Ten Commandments. If we look at the history, the people that introduced economy, relativity, psychology were all Jews. The Jews today comprise 0.2% of the population of the world. 0.2%. But 22.5% of all the Nobel Prize winners are Jews. Here in America, about 10% of all the senators are Jews. 22% of all the congressmen are Jews. 25% of all the Ivy League schools, the students are Jews. I mean, it's pretty clear that we have a lot to be proud about, right? And we brought monotheism to the world. Now, if we look at the state of Israel that was established just 70 years ago, the state of Israel in 70 years became a beacon of democracy in the Middle East, innovation, technology. What Israel produces is all over the world: medical, technology, science, space. We are the number 3. Israel is the number 3 on NASDAQ after the United States and China. And it makes sense, because if you take the Chinese and the Israelis, we're more than 1.4 billion people. So, right? Together, we're 1.4 billion people with the Chinese. So there's no problem that they're number 2 and we're number 3. But look at the magnitude. We only 0.2% of the population of the world, and we're number 3 on NASDAQ. Let's look at this picture. Look, Einstein, relativity, sitting here with Ben Gurion, the founder, the founding father of the state of Israel in Israel. We look at pictures of old Israel, the Western world, and new Israel. Look at the difference. Look at where we are today, and we have both. And here in the United States, 3 out of the 9 Supreme Court judges are Jewish people. So we have a lot to be proud of. And before we move on, I just want to show you a short video about Israeli accomplishments in the last 70 years, because today is the birthday of the 70th birthday of the state of Israel. Here we go.
מכריזים בזאת על הקמת מדינה יהודית.
שידור ניסוי ראשון.
Golden Meir.
כבוד אחרון לדוד בן גוריון.
We have been through some difficult times.
To bring an end to war.
በጣም አመሰግናለሁ።
Israel and Jordan make peace.
3 כדורים.
הקשר עם החללית ניתק.
Pre-therapy to be effective.
Omri Caspi.
Let's go.
So we clearly, the state of Israel is a lot for us to be proud of. And if we look here in the United States, I think it's mentioned Jewish and Israeli people have invented Waze and Facebook and mobily and Laserdisc and almost anything that is innovative. We should be very, very proud about ourselves. So let's go into our next subject. So we're proud, but are we the bad guys? Have we done anything wrong? Absolutely not. Justice is on our side. We are the good guy, and we are being hated for reasons that have nothing to do with us. It's the hatred comes from the fact that we're a little bit different than everybody else. We're a little bit more accomplished, more ambitious, but there's nothing wrong with us. We did nothing wrong, and we need to understand it. Israel, I think, is a good example of how, when you let the Jews be by themselves and prosper, how much innovation and help to the whole world can come out of it. This is the only democracy, the place that is open and free for all its citizens, religious freedom, freedom of expression. Israel is a sign that, when we're Jews, and we're able to prosper by ourselves, the sky is the limit. So I want to talk a little bit about the proof that God is really on our side. We know that in the Bible we have the stories of the Exodus and crossing of the Red Sea and many, many miracles that happened to the Jewish people by our God. But in modern history, in 1948, when Ben-Gurion announced the independence of the State of Israel in May of 1948, he knew that the next day 6 armies of Arab will invade Israel and try to kill all the Jews in Israel. Most of the Jewish leaders in Israel recommended that he does not announce the independence of Israel. But he did. At that time, there were only 500,000 Jewish people living in Israel, and in the army, maybe 10% of them were in the army, 50,000 people. And they were attacked by 6 Arab armies from all over the Lebanon and Syria and Iraq and Egypt and Saudi Arabia. And against all odds, we won. And the reason we won is that God was with us. We had the courage to fight back, and God was with us. So not only are we the good guys, not only justice is always on our side, God is on our side. We need to remember it and have even more chizuk. So let's go to courage. If we are proud, if we're just, if God is with us, we should have courage. What does it mean to have courage? Anybody has an idea? Courage, what does it mean? Well, you know the answer, right? Courage is to stand up to bullies. Courage is to stand and defend yourself against your enemy. Courage is to stand up and fight for what you believe in. And fight for your principles. And don't be deterred by failure. You can fail and come back. We need to have the courage to fight back. Because if we don't fight back, nobody else will fight for us. Let's look at some Jewish courage over the years that you all know. The story of Moses, who went to Pharaoh over and over again, told him, "You let my people go." The story of Nachshon ben Aminadab, you know the story? When the Jewish people came in front of the Red Sea and the Egyptians were behind them and they didn't know what to do, he was the one who had the courage to jump into the water and the water split, right? He had the courage. And when we have the courage, usually God is with us. Remember that. We all remember the story of David against Goliath. And in modern history, in 1976, I think it was just shown in the other video, when an Israeli airline was kidnapped to Entebbe, the Israeli army traveled 2,400 miles and rescued the Jewish people on the plane. They were led by Yoni Netanyahu, the brother of Bibi Netanyahu. So courage is something that we always had. And I want to talk a little bit about some modern heroes that the Jewish people have. David Ben-Gurion is considered the founding father of the State of Israel. He became the leader of the Jewish community in Israel in 1935. He prepared Israel to be an independent state. And as I said, in 1948, against the advice of his close allies, he decided to announce the independence, and Israel became an independent country mostly because of his courage. Zev Jabotinsky, he was born at the same time Ben-Gurion, around 1880, and he believed in self-defense. He believed that the Jews should stand up and defend themselves. When he was still in Russia, he actually organized Jewish defense groups to defend Jews during the pogroms. And when he came to Israel, he started some self-defense militias. He believed that Jews should have a weapon even if they don't need the weapon, vis-a-vis need the weapon and don't have a weapon. So he believed in self-defense. He is the father of self-defense that the Israeli army is built on today, Zev Jabotinsky. And Golda Meir, I'd like to show you a short video about Golda and the Munich situation. Do you have it ready?
Jews. Who are we? For 2,000 years, we have been born with a faith and a hope. But you, Avner, were born with something else. You were born here. You can say to the world, I am a Jew, and also this is my home. We have a homeland again, a Jewish state, the state of Israel. It exists to protect us from our enemies and to provide us with a haven in this world where we can live in peace. But they will not let us live in peace. Once again, they are killing and terrorizing Jews all over the world. Innocent people. Even children, in planes, on buses, in schools, in Athens, and Zurich, and Tel Aviv, and now in Munich. Meanwhile, the rest of the world is playing volleyball and winning medals. So we are alone, as we have always been. Since no one will defend us, we must defend ourselves. Maybe these terrorists will not let us live in peace, but I promise you that Israel will chop off the hands of those who cut short the lives of our children. This terrorism, all terrorism, must be stopped. And this is why you are here. I have decided to strike back. We have been reluctant to change policy, but the guilty must not go unpunished. This is my decision and my responsibility. We will meet force with force. Remember this day, you may be stepping into the history books. Shalom.
Shalom.
You know, Dada, for this reason more than anything, I hate the terrorists. They're forcing our sons to become killers.
Golda Meir was the first female prime minister in the world. She was very tough. she had, you know what, and she made a decision after the Munich murder of 1972 to go after all the terrorists and kill them wherever they are, and all of them but one were indeed killed. This is the leader of this campaign that was called the Worth of God. And in 1973, when I was a soldier, and the Israeli army was depleted because we lost about half of the airplane trying to stop the invasion, we needed to replenish the army, and she asked America for help, and America was hesitating. You know what she did? She called Kissinger and told him, Henry, if you don't get us what we need tomorrow, we're going to use the nuclear weapons. And the next day there was a massive airlift of American weapons from Europe to replenish the Israeli army and enable us to go and invade Syria and Egypt back, and we won the war. She was a very strong woman. We owe her a lot of thanks. Mordechai Anilevich, 1943, the leader of the Ghetto Warsaw. When the Jews in Ghetto Warsaw in 1943 got word that Jews are being killed in a concentration camp, they decided to fight back. And about 300 Jews decided to fight back in April of 1943 against thousands and thousands of Nazis. And for a month, they were able to fight back, kill hundreds of Nazis until the Nazis could not take the ghetto back, and the Nazis went and put the ghetto on fire and burn all the Jews that were there, about $13,000. This is the first revolt of the Jews during the Nazi time that is known. And lastly, I want to bring a story of an Israeli that came here in 1940 to try to recruit Jewish Americans to fight along with the Brits in World War II. This is a story of Hillel Kook. He was the nephew of Rabbi Kook, but his American name was Peter Bergenson, and we'll see a short video about him.
On November 24th, 1942, Rabbi Stephen Wise, the most respected and powerful Jewish leader in America, held a press conference in Washington, D.C. The State Department had confirmed that the Nazis were killing European Jews as part of a plan of mass extermination.
Probably the most horrible morning of my life. A small story in the Washington Post on an inside page with a headline which nearly knocked me over, which simply said, Rabbi Wise says 2 million Jews slain. And I read it again and again, you know, I didn't believe what I was reading. I ran to see the Assistant Secretary of State, Adolf Berle, and I sat there waiting, and then finally he saw me. He had a few minutes in between appointments. I said, what are you going to do about it? And he says, what can we do about it? And I said, surely you don't say that the government of the United States is going to do nothing. I say, I am one individual here, a foreigner, and I know that I'm going to do something. I mean, what good it'll do, I don't know, but I know I'm going to do it. I made a speech that evening, which in essence said, from now on, we are going to get up in the morning and go through the day and go to bed at night, trying to do something to save the Jews of Europe.
He was here in 1943 when the war came, the Jews of Europe were being killed. He tried to get the United States to save the Jews of Europe, but he was unsuccessful. America did not help to save the Jews of Europe. America refused to bomb the rail track that led to the concentration and the camps. And we must be aware, as Golda said, that if anybody will fight for the Jews, it's us. We cannot rely on other people. It's upon us to take a stand and fight back. So what are we fighting against? We are fighting against antisemitism. Antisemitism is as old as this world, and I've touched on why we are being hated. But let's look in the last 2,000 years on points of anti-Semitism. 629 to the common era here. This was the killing, the massacre of Khaybar, when Muhammad killed all the Jews of a nearest village to Medina called Khaybar. And until today, if you hear Arabs say Khaybar, Khaybar, they would like to kill us the same way that Muhammad killed us in 629. 1066, Granada, another prosecution by Muslims. The Jews of Granada in Spain were killed, including the advisors to the king. We know that 1492, the Inquisition and the expulsion of Jews from Spain. Now, during the 1881 and 1928, we had a bunch of pogrom in Poland and in Russia. We know the Kishinev pogrom. There were many, tens and tens of Jews were killed all over. 1941, Iraq, massacre by Muslims in Iraq, it's called the Farhud. So you can see here a combination, it's not just Christians killing Jews, it's also Muslims killing Jews. Obviously, the Holocaust between 1939 and 1945. And in Russia, it continued. The prosecution of Jews continued up to 1991. Jews were not allowed to practice Judaism, and they were sent to gulags and concentration camps until the Jews of the Soviet Union were allowed to leave. After the Holocaust and the pogroms, the Jews, most of the Jews of the world went into two places, Israel and the United States of America. We talked about the history of Israel. Israel was established. Israel was built on self-defense. We will defend ourselves. And against existential threat, Israel became a beacon of innovation, democracy, unbelievable. But the Jews of the United States have to deal with anti-Semitism here. Now, anti-Semitism was a kind of dormant after the Holocaust because it wasn't cool to hate Jews after we lost 6 billion people. But anti-Semitism is coming back to America. In 1967, after the 6 Days War, the Arab country came to the realization that they will not destroy, most likely will not destroy Israel by military force, even though they tried again in 73. And they decided to engage in anti-Semitism. After the 1967 war in Khartoum, all the Arab League met and came with the 3 no's. No recognition of Israel, no peace, and no negotiation. We will destroy you by hook or by crook. And they started to promote international terrorism and anti-Semitism. The Munich Olympics, I think we have seen the video of Golda and your video, what terrorists affiliated with the PLO today, the Palestinian Authority of the West Bank, killing 11 Israeli athletes in Munich. In 1975, the UN came with a resolution that Zionism, our right to self-determination, is actually racism. And the BDS movement started all over the world and here in the United States in the beginning of 2001. The BDS is the boycott, divestment, and sanction movement who come to destroy Israel but non-military ways. Now, today, anti-Semitism is being depicted by this monster. We call him a three-head monster because anti-Semitism today comes from 3 different sources. We need to identify them. Obviously, there is the old anti-Semitism that comes from the white supremacists, from the Nazis, from the Christian, who really hate anything that is not Christian and white. So they don't have special feelings for us, they just anything. Immigrants, African Americans, Latino, anything that is not Christian and white, they hate. They are classical anti-Semites. They are also the Muslims, and the Muslims hate us for 2 reasons. One reason is because we're not Muslims and we don't accept the religion. But they also hate us because we occupy what they consider to be their land. State of Israel, they believe is their land, and we are foreigner on their land. So they want us out of there. So they are both anti-Semites and anti-Israel. And the radical left today, if this was the whites and this is the Muslim, let's say that this is the radical left, they hate They don't hate us as Jews because many of them are Jews. They hate the state of Israel. They hate everything that the state of Israel symbolizes. Mainly because we are a little America. Everything you can find in America, the capitalism, the system, the democratic value, Judeo-Christian value, they hate. So they hate Israel, who is a little America. And those three are today the sources of anti-Semitism, and the treatment of each one needs to be different. Anti-Semitism is not equal, it's different. Today there is an interesting coalition between the radical Muslims and the radical left in what is called, I'm not sure if you know, it's called intersectionality, where all the victims of the world unite to fight against their common enemies. So we are a common enemy of some of the groups. Therefore, the Women March, a lot of radical left and radical Muslims are targeting us. Since the establishment of Israel, Israel has been serving as a refuge, as a sanctuary, as the protector of the Jewish people. Today, we're much, much stronger because there is a state of Israel, and we must make sure that Israel stays strong and survive all the dangers. For example, in 1949, after the establishment of Israel, Israel went to Yemen on an operation called Magic Carpet and brought 50,000 Yemenites that were facing prosecution to Israel. In 1976, Operation Entebbe, we spoke about, they flew 2,400 miles, unbelievable, to save the Jews in an airport in Entebbe. And Operation Solomon in 1991, Israel went into Ethiopia and saved 15,000 Ethiopians that were facing prosecution. So for saving the Jews wherever they are, we need Israel. Today we have very, very strong anti-Semitism in Europe, and the Jews of France and the Jews of England looking at Israel as the place that they can feel safe. Obviously, they can also come to America, but if we will have the same situation in America like it was in World War II, where America was closed to Jewish refugees, Israel is the only refuge for Jews in the world. Not only is Israel a refuge, Israel, the Israeli army, is the army of the Jewish people. I want to show you a very, very important video about March of the Living ceremony here in Auschwitz. Took place in 2003, and you'll be fascinated. Go ahead. Right.
For the Jewish people, the 20th century marked both miraculous triumph and unimaginable tragedy. 6 million Jews were murdered in the Holocaust. And then, within just a few years, a Jewish state was reborn in the land of Israel. Today, the existence of a strong state of Israel ensures that never again truly means never again. Thursday, August 28th, 2003, an Air Force base in central Israel, the F-15 Eagle. Levko, his grandfather was a pilot in the Austro-Hungarian Air Force during World War I. This saved his father's family in Budapest during the Holocaust. Shim Shon, a reserve pilot, he was named after an uncle that was murdered in the Lodz ghetto. Brigadier General Amir Eshel, the commander of the Air Force base and the flyover mission. 11:50 a.m., takeoff of the 3 F-15s. The pilots begin their journey. Their mission? A flyover during a commemorative ceremony at Auschwitz. They will demonstrate that Hitler failed, that a strong and thriving Jewish state has risen, a state with a powerful army that safeguards all of the world's Jews, translating the words never again into action. In 1943, 1,000 Jews arrived in the 59th SS transport from Drancy, France. Following the selection, 232 men and 106 women were admitted to the camp. The other 662 people were murdered in the gas chamber. 60 years later, members of the Israel Defense Forces returned to this hallowed ground, where more than 1 million Jews were murdered. Brigadier General Ido Nehushtan leads a special remembrance ceremony attended by officers from all branches of the IDF. In paying tribute to the dead, they send a powerful message about their sacred commitment to protecting the Jewish people.
באנו כדי ללמוד משהו על תרבות יהודית שהייתה, לעצום עיניים ולראות מסחר ער בכיכר תקטין, לשמוע חכמים מתפלפלים בישיבת לובלין, את הרמה הפוסק בתורה, לדמיין העיירה יהודית חיה ותוססת. באנו כדי לעבור בשבילי השמדת עם, ללכת ברחובות הגטאות, לפסוע ביער אל בורות ההריגה, להיכנס בשערי מחנות המוות, לנסות לדמיין את גודל האסון האישי, המשפחתי, הקולקטיבי. באנו לומר לקורבנות ההשפלה וההשמדה שאפרם מונח כאן לרגלינו, לאלה שהומתו מיד עם הגעת הטרנספורט ולאלה שקודם למותם נטרפה להם דעתם מעוצמת הרעב, הקור, ההשפלה וההתמודדות היומית עם שפל מנהג אדם באדם. אנחנו כאן, למרות הכל. ההתנגדות היהודית הפכה לצבא מודרני בעל עוצמה אדירה. רוח הקרב שלכם חיה ומפעמת בו. מסדר וצדם.
אנו, טייסי חיל האוויר הישראלי, בשמי מחנה הזוועות, קמנו מאפר ענייני הקורבנות, נושאים את זעקתם, מצדיעים לגבורתם ומבטיחים להיות מגן העם היהודי מארצו ישראל.
Incredible movie. To make sure, thank you. Thanks Israel. To make sure that never again we need a strong Israel. Now, but it's not just for the sake of Israel. It's not just for the sake of the Jewish people. Let's go to the cartoon. You see, Israel is the floodgate. The enemies of Israel are also the enemies of Europe and the enemies of America. And once they destroy Israel, and all those radical movement trying to destroy Israel, and the radical left is trying to hold the ends of Israel tight so they cannot even protect themselves. If all those dangers continue, all this flood is coming to Europe, and you can see today what's happening in Europe, and it's going to go up, and it's going to come here to the United States. Israel is the floodgate. Look what the Prime Minister of Spain said. My conviction is that the best strategy to defend the West is to defend the state of Israel. Remember, in order to defeat this anti-Semitism, in order to defeat our enemies, we must make anti-Semitism an American problem. We cannot deal with it alone, especially with so many Jews are on the other side. We need to establish, to substantiate to America that anti-Semitism is an American problem. Whatever starts with the Jews never end with the Jews. And let's go on. And we need to show Americans that the people that are burning Israeli flags are also burning American flags. The people that say that Israel is the small Satan also saying that America is the great Satan. The people that don't believe in our democracy and want to change it, so we have Sharia law in Europe and in America, those are enemies of America. Look at the Nazis here. They hate us. Yeah, they say Jews will not rule us, but they hate America. They're enemy of America. And look at the radical left, Antifa, those violent gangs that going and attacking everybody in the street and not allowing anybody to speak. Those are enemies of America. We must convince America that our enemies are enemies of America. And if we do so, we can really bring coalition and build coalition, not to fight anti-Semitism alone, but fight with everybody here in America, the progressive and the conservative, the Christians and the seculars, to fight together against our common enemy. We cannot do it alone. We need more people to fight anti-Semitism, but at the end of the day, it's on us. Let's finish up with what Rabbi Hillel said. That is always relevant, right? What did Rabbi Hillel say? It's up to us. If I'm not for myself, who will be for me? But if I'm only for myself, who am I? And if not now, when? אם אין אני לי מי לי, וכשאני לעצמי מה אני, ואם לא עכשיו, מתי? You are the next generation of Jewish leader. It's upon us. We need to have the pride, the courage to stand up and fight for the Jewish people and the state of Israel. And we need to find allies outside of the Jewish community, within the American. It's up to us. And I'm sure if you do that, then many years down the line, you will be very proud at what you have accomplished. Thank you very much.